right. Hi there, and welcome back to the FFS podcast. I'm your host, Praddy, once again, and welcome to episode number one, I suppose. I guess the preview was episode zero. So, episode one of this Women's Euro 2022 tournament. Uh, if you've watched our previous video, we previewed the entire tournament. We spoke about each team in a minute. So all of our guests spoke about different teams, and we gave them a timer sort of challenge, and then we kind of gave our predictions about the tournament. Now we're already done with the group stage of the tournament, and we're going to be here for the next hour or so, talking, discussing, reviewing the group stage. And with me, we've got two guests, uh, two people who follow women's football religiously, more so than I do. And I'm glad that we could have them on here. So let's start with introductions before we talk about the group stage. So, first off, Radha, welcome to the podcast. It's been a while. How are you? And tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Patty, for having me on. I know it's been a bit, but I'm always glad to come back and have a chat. Yeah, I'm Radha, and I guess the women's football side of me is that I run a digital media platform called She Talks Ball, where I just do things about women's football from time to time. So I think that's a very quick, brief intro about myself.
Awesome, great, and yeah, don't. I'll be putting up the links for She Talks Ball on Twitter, Instagram, or any of our social media platforms, as well as on this YouTube link, so you can go check that out. A lot of great stuff, not only in football but in women's sports in general. So go check that out. And we move on to someone who was supposed to be in England by now, but is unfortunately not. We did predict this during our preview itself, which was way back in June, saying that we supposed it was a good split. We had 50% of the people who were actually going and 50% who weren't. But obviously, the one thing that Unnati had mentioned was very vital to going to England was the one thing that held her back. And Unnati, unfortunately, you couldn't make it England, but I'm glad we could have you on here on this podcast once again. So welcome back, and why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, Pradit. It's really nice to be back. Should be from England, but nonetheless, I think India is not a bad place to be watching and following the Euros from. Yeah, I'm a sports writer and I write frequently for Sporting Her Football Hub, and recently started writing for Wavell. And I guess I am just a little too passionate about women's football. So yeah, sometimes my opinions can uh, not be really liked by a lot of people, but hey, we are all here at the end of the day to just allow for the sport to just grow and get all the visibility that it should get. So yeah, that's pretty much it about me.
Awesome. All right. So let's not waste too long and let's talk about the tournament. And we're already through the group stage. I mean, it's crazy how fast time flies because it feels like it was barely a week before that we were actually previewing this. And now we're already like, what, three games, six games each or whatever. Uh, three games per team, right? So 3 rounds so,
Yep.
of the Euro 2022, and it's crazy. I mean, obviously, I the initial plan was to kind of do a roundup after each round, so a review after each round of the group stage. But unfortunately, with Euro came my first contact with the virus, so I was down for the entire week, so I couldn't watch anything. But that's why I'm glad that we could have you on here because at least you could stay up. You had the energy to stay up and watch those games because by 9 o'clock I was done. I was nowhere close to being even ready to watch those games. But all right, let's talk about this. So rather, let me ask you, taking the whole group stage as like looking at the whole group stage as a whole. um I said whole too many times. looking at the group stage as a whole, what were your thoughts on it? Like, how did it meet your expectations going into this tournament?
Yeah, I definitely think it did. I think before the tournament, expectations were higher than ever before, and that was touched upon in your preview also, which I watched, quite a bit of, because obviously it's a very exciting tournament. Never before have there been so many favorites for one single tournament. Never before has there been so much hype for one single tournament, and never before has you know a TV channel in India really taken this up. Although there were select matches only, but the fact that people are tuning in late at night was really, really encouraging. So the expectations were very high, let me tell you, and I'm not disappointed. I think that each match brought its own flavor. It brought its own energy. It brought its own ups and downs, and it was just high quality, exciting football to watch, and that's exactly what you expect from a major tournament.
Yeah, the one thing that you the one thing that you said that actually highlights this particular tournament was that the hype was there. It wasn't that it was sort of hidden in the background. There was a lot of coverage. I mean, I wouldn't say as much as probably the men's game would have gotten, but there's obviously room for improvement. But there was enough coverage, enough sort of hype before the tournament. The Twitter handles and the social media accounts were really pushing it forward, because this was, in fact, given that the World Cup was pushed to the winter, this was women's football the summer blockbuster feel. Like, it gave them the proper, like, platform to go and perform and showcase their talent and showcase everything that is about women's football. It didn't have to fight with the men's World Cup, which should have been disastrous from everything, from every point of view, from viewership, everything. You don't
Right.
want to be fighting a tournament like the World Cup. But like you mentioned, the hype was there. We also did the preview. Everyone was like really energetic. Everyone was like, okay, this is one tournament where we can't really predict much, because even if in our predictions we are like, oh no, this could happen, this might not happen. Everyone seemed to be a dark horse except for the major runners, which showcases how crazy this tournament could be. And we've got already some results that have showcased that. But Unnati, we were there on the podcast that day. And like I said, every second team that we were talking about was like, oh, this could be a dark horse. Oh, this could be a dark horse. This team could be this team. Oh, this team actually is strong on paper, but actually not that great when it comes to, with the managers and all of that. So to you, did it actually live up to that hype that you yourself created, you and along with the other panelists?
Yeah, I think to an extent, some of, like, some of the teams really lived up to all the expectations. Like, I just want to put Iceland out there. Like, for example, they did fantastic. So, like, certain teams really lived up to a lot of expectations. Obviously, going into a tournament, sometimes, it's too unpredictable, like we spoke about previously as well. But the thing was this time that, it wasn't just the fact that how usually in women's football previously we've had teams, like, we would say that, oh, maybe only two or three teams could, possibly be the ones who could end up winning the tournament. This time it was more around, it could be anybody's game at the end of the day. And somewhat, I think, the way the groups, went along, we ended up seeing something like that as well. Like, we thought of something else and something else has completely, happened. So I think to certain extent, yes, it has lived up to all the expectations. And of course, certain teams have not done that well, I could say.
Norway. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because after that game, I think it was after round one itself, Atan was like, yeah, Norway, England's gonna make it to the finals. I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll see. And then the second round happened, and I'm like, okay, nope,
I think
not
I
happening.
think the biggest problem with Norway was, like, their defense. The defense was
Yeah,
it was a major problem. So yeah.
yeah, we'll
It's
get into that in greater
yeah.
detail later on. So yeah, probably save that part for a little while later, which we've got something different here. But yeah, I think in terms of the excitement, in terms of the games, like I did mention, I couldn't watch most of the games, but every day I'd wake up and I'd see the scores, and I'd be astounded by every score line I'd see. and I think the only two games that I managed to watch were the Switzerland one, which were a little earlier, and like this, and both the times I watched it, and within 2 minutes of me watching it, they scored like an equalizer. The first goal was scored, and then the equalizer, and I was like, "Oh wow, okay, brilliant."
I'm pretty sure
I
that
should
must have
tune
been
into
the
this more
Netherlands and
often.
Switzerland game. Yeah.
No, the Netherlands and Switzerland, and even before that, was it the
Yeah,
Switzerland
Switzerland,
game? Or I think was
Portugal.
it?
Switzerland, Portugal.
Yeah, no,
Switzerland and
I
Portugal, yeah.
no. I think it was then the Austria one. I think was Austria do something similar. I don't know. I might be mistaken with something. I'm pretty sure my Twitter has it. I think, but one of the two. Both wore red or both wore white. So I'm like, forgive me. I was pretty ill during that time. So, okay, I would have probably hallucinating it, but I'm pretty sure I had it written down there. Or was it Sweden? Sweden and someone played, and then Sweden scored, and
Sweden does
who did
not have a
Sweden play?
white jersey or
No,
even
but
a red
Sweden
one.
played someone else against someone in a red jersey.
Yeah, Sweden
They
was
No,
did
you said
play.
looking close to
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was Switzerland Sweden then. It was Switzerland Sweden
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Switzerland then
yeah.
Netherlands, because I remember
Yeah, it was Switzerland,
Switzerland has
Sweden.
someone scored
Sweden, yeah.
an own goal, and then they scored the equalizer just like
Oh, that
minutes
is
later.
Switzerland
That
and
was
Netherlands.
Netherlands, Switzerland.
Then Switzerland, yeah.
Okay, fine. Then it was also the one before that. I am sure it was those two games, because I remember Switzerland were the ones who would equalize, and I was like, yeah, good enough. Oh, was the Sweden one with Rolfo?
Yeah. So in the
Yes.
Sweden
the
game,
first
Rolfo scored, and then Switzerland
then-
scored after
Yeah.
2 minutes. And in
Yes.
the Netherlands game, Switzerland scored an own goal, and then Switzerland scored in the Dutch goal 4 minutes later. So they have
Yes.
somehow the knack of like conceding and then getting back in the opponent's half.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Yeah, so I wasn't completely hallucinating, which is great. But all right, so I mean, like I said, like every time I look at the scores and I'd see it, and I'd be astounded, because first of all, it would be either a team that I expected to do well and they didn't. I.e., maybe the England-Norway game, I did not expect that score. I woke up and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Are you mad?"
I think nobody expected that scoreline from that match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think even the France group, I kept seeing a lot of the draws, and I was like, okay, this is actually getting quite close. I would have thought France would be running miles away with it, but like you said, Iceland and teams like that, they actually kept it quite tight with the French team. Then you've got Spain, Germany, which was obviously typical Spain to have something stupid happen before the tournament happens, with Alessia getting injured. I was like, when that happened, I was like, this is typical Spain, because I remember
Freddy,
during
there
the
is more
men's
to
World
Spain
Cup.
than there's
No,
more
no.
to. I apologize for interrupting, but there is more to Spain's problems than just Alexia
I was
missing
gonna
out.
say the same.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
really
I know
sorry.
that, but I get that, but to just to have her on the pitch to see like what she could do and everything, to just miss out
yeah.
on that would, and it was last minute. So I was like, in the men's game, you had the coach who got sacked like a few days before the World Cup, and now for this, you've got there at that point, or at this point, being missing out on the tournament, who everyone was looking forward to watching, at least, no matter how the team was, just to watch her and
Can I
see how
just
she
say
was
this?
doing.
Sorry for interrupting you again, but
No, that's fine. Keep going.
had the coach been sacked, like it had happened at the World Cup, I'm plenty sure that there would have been, all of Twitter would have been celebrating at that point. But yeah.
We've at least got it to the quarters for now. But anyway, let's talk about each group now in detail. And what we're going to do is something different. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, and yeah. All right. So if everyone can see that there, great. So we've got the tournament. Now let me try and do something. I just don't want this one to show up. Let's get that pic. Yeah. All right. So we've got a sort of flow chart of sorts, or a chart here. And what we're going to do is, in each group, we're going to be talking or discussing the best player, the best game, the best goal from each group. And we've got a wild card where our guests can talk about anything that they found particularly interesting, something that sticks to their mind or stuck to their mind in that particular group. And yeah, that's how we're going to be discussing or reviewing the group stage as a whole. So let's talk Group A, and that's obviously England, Austria, Norway, Northern Ireland. I think in our predictions, and if I think we have that here, we had Norway and England going through. Little did we know this wouldn't be the case. So let's talk best player from this group. And Unnati, let's start with you. So from what's gone on over the past three rounds, who was your best
Um,
player of Group A?
I don't know if Radha is going to agree with me, but I think Beth Mead just knocked it off the park. She was so good in all the three games. She ended up scoring in all three games. And I think in general, especially after the Olympics, where she was not, selected for the squad, ever since that time, she's come back for the last season, and she's just upped her performance so much, and she's just consistently performed so well that she definitely deserved the spot that she got in, for the Euros. And then I think she's just justified that spot. So definitely Beth Mead for me, hands down. Like, I could say, players like Kiera Walsh, who is just so pivotal in that midfield position, but then you just have Beth Mead, and then you just can't. I honestly couldn't pick someone else. I honestly can't.
Okay. I mean, I'm guessing it is bound to be an English player given the results, given how emphatically they've kind of gone through the group stage. Rather, would you agree with what Unnati said, or do you have another best player in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be silly not to agree with that, and that was the first name that came to mind. If someone is directly contributing the more than half the goals you score in your group stages, like she's the one you pick, she's the one you keep in your lineup every time. And Beth Mead is on some revenge trip against Hege Riise. I'm convinced of it because Hege Riise, the Norwegian, dropped her from Team GB, and she killed Norway. And I mean, I just love a revenge story like that. And, it's Beth Mead all the way. No meat or no party.
No,
Awesome. All
you
right.
know
So
what is okay. I need to say this because you know what chant I'm just
yeah.
gonna say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I don't. I seriously don't. So
Uh,
you have to probably anyway say it.
okay, okay. Let's just skip it probably then.
No, no, come on. You brought it on yourself. I did not. Uh,
Okay, it's
yeah,
bet meets on fire. Your defenses are terrified.
It
yeah.
works in
Okay. So
international
Ria's got
settings,
Yeah, it really does.
not so
And
much at club.
not.
there's actually an after party where I hope if everyone's watched it, Dazan actually ended up posting a video about it, and there was an after party in one of the clubs, and they were chanting and singing that there was some vibe to party with.
All right, perfect. So let's okay. So that's unanimous. So let's move on to the best game of the group stage. Now, that's there have been some pretty interesting results. But which one do you think stands out? Rather,
Um, I will pick the Austria Norway game simply because it
okay.
kept me on my toes the entire time because Norway were in shambles, but you would expect on paper for Norway to win that, and Austria put up a gritty performance versus England, and although they conceded, they looked in good shape, they looked cohesive, and I was at the edge of my seat rooting for Austria to get one goal in, which they did eventually. And so I think in terms of exhibition of football and really, really good result for a team that was working hard and working as a team. That's a game that I really enjoyed to watch. So for me, that'd be best game.
Was that a late goal as well? That was a late goal, wasn't it? Or one of them was
Um,
late. I don't
No,
know.
it
no,
wasn't too late, which actually
yeah,
it shows it's kind of better because they scored and then they defended the entire time. I think it was scored in the first half around 37, 38, and the
yeah.
fact that they held Norway
Oh,
off with other Hegerberg and CGH and Guro Reiten. I mean, it's insane. So hats off to Austria. They deserve a place in the quarterfinal.
I mean, so like Laura
yeah.
uh,
Go on.
Weinrother just ended up pocketing the entire. She was on fire.
Yeah,
I definitely want Arsenal to start her more now.
for sure.
Okay, and Unnati, who would you agree with the same or?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was a very good game, to be honest, but I know there were some people who kind of were also not very happy with that game. But yeah, I feel like Austria in general, all the Austrian games, they've been pretty good. Even the first game against England, they pretty much tried to get the goal in. And it was pretty unfortunate that they didn't get to score in that game, because that would have made it like even more interesting, having a tie in the very first game itself. But I feel like, yeah, I can agree with Radha. That was one of the better games, because, and I know there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be saying that England versus Norway was such a good game, because England for the first time kept capitalizing so much on every single opportunity that they had. But the thing was
Yeah.
that Norway was just really, it was like
They
an
weren't
open
there.
field. They weren't
Yeah.
there. The way I see it, they were back in Oslo. So
But why was that? I mean, because we touted not only win or be in the semifinals, but even like comprehensively be leading this particular group. So what's the? I mean, were the defenses? Did the defense take us by surprise that we weren't even ready to see how shambolic it was? Like, because even in our predictions, Norway was ahead. I mean, fine, we had three English fans on there who didn't want to say England because they didn't want to jinx it. Fair enough, but even then, we were all singing the praises of of the Norway team, saying that they would easily make it through. That it was going to be England Norway.
This is proof
actually, the
more than
way,
But
ever. I'll
I
quickly
mean,
say that this
yeah,
is
good,
proof
good.
more than ever that football is a team sport. I think that's as simple as that. Because Norway was picked thanks to the big stars on their team. They haven't had great success in major tournaments before this as well. The couple of ones that have happened. So clearly we were just like, oh, Ada Hegerberg, come back. Oh, Karen Graham Hansen, great form. Or Gurun Reiten has won the domestic treble, whatever it may be. But if you're not a team, you're not a team. That's it. That's the biggest proof that I've seen.
I think the biggest concern for me with the Norwegian team was their defense, because, believe it or not, yeah, like like just like Radha said, you had the big names on the team and everything, and you could have possibly gotten ahead with them. But simply the fact was that even with a great attack, like you had the likes of Gura Reiten, Ada Hegerberg, Caroline Graham Hansen starting, but if your defense is not strong enough, there is no point. Like there are certain teams where it's not enough to just think about the fact that, okay, we are just going to keep scoring and that's going to be enough, because obviously the opposition is also going to want to score at the end of the day. So I feel like that the defense was the weakest point. And Pradi, to be honest, even then, if I'm not wrong, even during the preview, we did end up saying that even though uh, you know Norway's attack was good, we always had concerns about their defense.
yeah, okay, friend. I just didn't think that they would you know capitulate so much that we're talking that they're out of the
No, I mean,
tournament so
to be
early.
to be very honest, it was very disappointing to see this performance from them, because yes, they have not been able to capitalize in any of their in the previous tournaments. But to have these kind of players on the team, where you have world class
Yeah,
players, like it's
I
it's it's
guess
not
you can.
okay.
I guess you can. So because I watched the men's game a lot more. You sort of I kind of can relate to it because the England team in the men's game had the golden generation of the Beckhams, Gerrards, Lampards, all of them, and they never did anything. They were constant failures in the international tournaments. Whether it be group stages or quarterfinals. I can understand that having the biggest names doesn't equate to sort of you know being the better team on or being good enough for to get through the group stage. Let's move on to the best goal now. Obviously, plenty of goals scored, namely from England, and then you have Austria, and all of them. But which one would you pick, Unnati?
mm, I mean, since I said Beth Mead was the best player, I have to kind of agree and say that I think she scored one of the best goals, and it was against, if I'm not wrong, against Norway. It was a pretty
Okay.
good goal.
Which one?
Yeah. Oh my God! Don't make me choose. Don't make me choose.
Okay.
That's where I stop.
Yeah, she scored
So
so
Ria
many.
says her second goal against Norway made her cry. So I'm guessing, is that the best one?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the fact
Take your
that
pick.
Beth Mead has scored. Yeah, you just take your pick. She's just scored really good goals. That's enough said.
Okay. And Radha?
I'll give a quick mention to Beth Mead chip over Zinsberger in the first game. That the first
Yeah,
goal of the tournament. It was
she ended
yeah,
up
it was
saying
quite epic.
something which we can't say right now, but
Oh no
yeah.
no, I'll say it. I'll say
Oh,
it.
you
But
can.
yeah,
Oh, can
Zinsberger
I?
has gotten very used to getting chipped. Be it domestic or
Yeah.
internationally. So she needs
Yeah.
to just get some dip with those chips. But another one that I'd like to quickly mention is Alessia Russo. In the final game, she came
Oh,
on in the second half,
oh.
and she had two incredible headers. And
Uh-huh.
it's a great statement for her to make a mark as a super sub. Also, she is the future of England's attacking line. And I think in one of the headers, she timed her jump to perfection. She wasn't the taller of the two, but she got great contact and put the ball in the other direction. So it was an all-round beautiful header when seen in slow motion. So I'd give that one a shout out as well.
I mean, I have to kind
Okay.
of add another one of her goals. I think it was against Northern Ireland, if I'm not wrong, where she takes that beautiful turn
Turn.
with the ball,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she
I've
dribbles it
seen that.
she dribbles it so well. I could see it like for ages and ages. It was such a good goal.
Yeah. Okay. We've got one, though. So, uh,
I
okay,
think
what
we
I'm going
can
to do is
both
I'll take
agree
one
on.
of. Yeah, let me do one thing. I'll take two. I know it's the best, but because we've got two here and we've not got someone who can break the tie, I will. Yeah, I'll give you both each one best goal. So I'm guessing Unnati's Beth Mead's goal against.
Yeah, yeah, I can
Yeah,
I can
and
pick that.
Russ's
Yeah.
is
I'll take the Russo
the
one.
Russo.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, give me some time. I'll do the best goal later. Fine.
Oh
And
no!
then
Oh, I
we've
was
got.
gonna say we can just you can just take Russo as the best goal, since we ended up giving Beth
Beth
the
Mead
best
best
Beth Mead.
player.
best player.
I thought we'd
Okay.
get some diversity
Okay.
up on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that's the definition of diversity, but fair enough.
Arey
Let's go with that.
bhai.
Let's go with that. No,
Just
no,
someone
it's good. Let's go
different.
with that.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I know. I know. All right. Let's talk about Wildcard and something that you two think is worth mentioning about this group. Something that you felt has to be said, or something that some sort of incident that's stuck in your memory.
I think Northern
So rather,
Ireland's debut.
yeah. Okay. Why? Okay, wait.
I
Since you said that, why?
um Northern Ireland's debut, because obviously this is like one of their first major tournaments, and I think given that scenario, I think they performed really well. It's obviously to have such an opportunity like this, and to play at the biggest platform. They've really showcased a lot of talent, and I think, like, if we give them some time, some more investment, and a little bit more help, I think they can surely take it up in the future as well. They'll be back soon, I feel.
Okay. Okay. And rather,
Something that stuck in my mind when you said that, it took me back to the England Austria game where Laura Weinrother, I think she had Lauren Hemp really really tight, held her in a tight space, to the extent that in the first half Hemp and Beth Mead switched sides. And I think one of the reasons for the side swap was just to give Hemp like a different opponent to face. So I'd like to give her a shout out there. I think that's a more of a player wildcard than a team wildcard, but I'd love to see her regularly in the WSL. I think she's been in England for about half a year, I think, but we haven't seen too much of her. And hopefully, this performance has
okay.
held her in good stead going forward.
I hope you're seeing
Okay.
this, Jonas.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, now I'm gonna leave wildcard as is because definitely different things. All right, let's Group B now, and yeah, I guess let's
I think this one's gonna be
talk.
long.
Yeah,
I'll let Unnati
okay,
take the lead on this group.
yeah, yeah. So initially, when I came up with this concept, I was like, I was thinking each one take one group, but then I was like, I know Unnati's. In case I say rather take Group B, Unnati's gonna fight me out of this podcast. She's just gonna
Yeah,
like
yeah,
kick
yeah.
me out. She's gonna be like, bye bye. I'm not doing that because when we did the preview itself, she's like every 2 seconds, I want. I was like, I know, but this format is I'm gonna choose that. No, no, I want Spain. I was like, okay,
Right.
wait, let me try it. So Unnati, let's talk about this group first. Um, what did you make of it? Obviously, Germany and Spain did make it. I think those were the two teams we predicted as well would make it out of the group. But what did you make of it as a whole?
I think in a way I'm happy that Germany did make it out because they kind of proved me wrong because I did end up saying at that time that I want Denmark would make it out and Germany would not make it out. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. Yeah, as expected from Spain. I yeah, I'll save Spain for the last of it. But yeah,
Okay.
I think Denmark was probably one of the most shocking performances because
Mm-hmm.
to an extent we did expect something out of them, and that was to at least make it out of the group because like if you remember, Natalie did talk about the previous performances that Denmark recently had, and it was not up to the mark as well. But the thing was that we all expected Denmark to do at least a little better than what they showcased, which they did against Spain in the last game, because I think that was one of their best games of all the games that they played in the group. So I think while there was like a lot more expectation, they particularly haven't showcased that. But obviously, I feel like the last performance that they had ended up, kind of making everything better in terms of how their whole group stage went. So I think they can take from that and then they can move forward.
Okay.
Finland, I think Finland's first game against Spain, that goal in the first minute, oh my God, it was a beauty. I really enjoyed that goal because they really capitalized on Spain's biggest problem, which is there was a lot of space in left behind in the defense. So they ended up capitalizing on that, which I was very happy about. So Finland's performance, I mean, obviously at the end of the day we did all expect Finland to come last in the group, and that's exactly what happened. But I think I'm happy decently with how Finland really did, because their goalkeeper Copella, she plays for Tottenham Hotspur, and she does really well. And she showcased that as well, because in plenty of the games, she's made some really good saves. So I think she overall as a whole, Finland has done well. Germany, yeah,
Okay.
Germany was excellent. I can't even say anything bad about Germany. Like, yeah, I had some concerns because of how they were not playing consistently well enough in the previous games. Like I said, they lost against Serbia out of all the teams. So that kind of just put a doubt in my head. But then eventually, I think like we had all spoken, Germany has that experience of being in a
Yeah.
major tournament and winning major tournaments. So I think they've capitalized very well on their experience, even though they are missing out on some players. And yeah, Germany was fantastic. Coming to Spain,
Okay.
I don't even know where to start and where to end. It's like you have all that talent sitting on your bench, like just waiting to. So you have 23 players, and you have like possibly you could have the best 11 coming out of those 23 players, but you consistently choose not to do that, and instead you just end up putting out a, I don't even know what to say, because I feel bad for those players, because it's not, I can't point it out to them saying that everything is their fault, because it's not. If you have yeah, I'm gonna be kind of later on be not taken in the
Yeah.
right manner. But I have to say this: if you have a coach who is going to have mediocre expectations from his team, there is no team in the world, even with their own mentality, own positivity or any of it, who's going to be able to make it out without having any sort of impact of what the coach says. Because at the end of the day, even though we say that the captain is the leader of the team, it's actually the coach, because what the coach kind of
Yeah.
feeds you, that's exactly
Yeah.
how the team flourishes. So if this coach has mediocre expectations, there is no way any team can progress further. On top of that, the coach himself kind of agrees in a public press conference, saying that he was getting one of the best strikers of the Spanish league in the 90th minute of a game, where the in the 89th minute of the game, where the score was still 0-0, just because he wanted to waste time. I mean, come on, like, hear yourself. So yeah, I mean, I think majority of Spain's problems, the first and the most important problem, is that coach. That coach, if you get rid of that coach, I think half your problems are solved there and then later on, because Spain has so much talent, and I am not going to stop saying this, because they really have so much talent that is not being explored. And when you said golden generation of talent like England had, this is currently Spain's golden generation of talent that is being wasted, because two of the best players are sitting at home, not on the squad. One of the players, who's one of the best number nines in the league, is sitting and rotting on the bench, and the other younger generation player who you would possibly be looking out as Alexia's what do you say, substitute or a replacement, is also rotting on the bench. So you play players out of position, and how is any team just going to work? It just does not. So they've just
Yeah.
they've just made it out, because the players themselves have been pushing forward, and it's just the players. The coach has done nothing, and I mean it when I say the coach has done nothing.
All right, so I guess that's all the time we have for this podcast. Fortunately, look at the time for that. It's been too long. All right. Rather, let's straight away get on to this. So, so do you have anything to add to what Unnati said?
No, I think she's covered everything.
Okay, great. Let's get to the best player. So, rather, who do you think in this group stood out to you?
I think Corpella was great, the Finnish goalkeeper. I mean, if you look at the numbers, she conceded a lot, but she was a great leader. But I mean, if I've got to have to take one name, so that was like my shout out. I would have to give it to Alex Pop. I think not having played all the minutes possible in the group stages, yet having an impact in her game, in each game for her side, and as a veteran leader, I mean, there's nothing more you can ask for. And she looks like she's getting into peak confidence in games that are going to matter more and more going forward. So I'd give it to Alex Pop. I think you probably have her image ready, hopefully. But yeah, look, I think it's got to be Alex. She's been good for Germany so far, quite solid.
Okay. And Unnati?
Yeah, I agree with Radha. Alex Fox, she's been amazing. She's again just like Bethmead, she scored in all three games. So yeah, absolutely have to give it to her.
Okay. Let me try and quickly find that image. Suit one that I won't get sued for. Okay. I guess Wikipedia will have to do. All right. Please tell me if this is the right person also, because
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
she
is.
is.
Google's not going to. Not the
It's
best
quite an
player.
old
Let's.
picture of hers, actually.
Yeah, she's looking
Okay.
great,
Okay. Yeah. Let's do. Let's try and.
glowing,
Uh, I mean, Wikipedia's got the perfect image of them.
and that's a perfect
Let,
German face right there. Like she's so
yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with her.
You still don't want to mess
Perfect.
with
All right.
Alex Pop otherwise as well.
Yeah. Fair.
Okay, so let's go to the best game, and Unnati, which of the how many ever games that they played was your favorite?
I think who is it? It's one of the German games, definitely. I think I think it was Germany versus Denmark. Yeah, the Germans. Oh boy, uh, that was like amazing performance from them. So yeah, the Germany versus Denmark. That game was just, it was the first game, and it pretty much just every single doubt that I had in mind about Germany back then, yeah, it just vanished with that game. But then another game I could say is I think Germany versus Spain as well. I honestly, all the Spanish games were kind of bad for me, other than the Spain versus Finland game. It wasn't great.
Okay.
I would say
And
Germany
Radha?
versus Denmark.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to go Germany versus Spain, simply because Germany just went about their business, and this was the probably the toughest tie, on paper. And surely it was the toughest tie even on the field. But they scored two in the first half. They backed their youngsters to lead the attacking force, and just went about doing their thing. And they didn't mind Spain having the ball. They didn't mind having no fans in the audience because they didn't have a great traveling contingent as compared to some other European teams. So the fact that the Germans have just been silently
Why?
going about their business makes me really happy. I mean, I think that's a like insanely strong mentality that they have, that the outside noise is just white noise, it doesn't matter. So yeah, kudos to them. I think Germany versus Spain.
But why did they not have? I mean, you would have being
No,
close
I
to
mean,
England.
yeah,
What's
I
the
just think that it wasn't they haven't been that vocal. You haven't seen parades of Germans going
okay?
as Swedish
But
and Dutch fans
but
have
rather,
been.
I think that in general you don't see quite a lot from Germany, really.
Right, that I get that's
No,
I
I
guess what
think
I'm
the
touching upon.
biggest. I'll tell you one of the problems that at least some of my friends have faced is the fact that uh, because of Brexit, obviously all of
Yeah.
them need their passports now to travel to England. So I think,
Oh, it's a
um,
visa talk again.
yeah, yeah, but at least for them it's just the need of a passport as compared to a visa. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's true.
that was the
It'll
problem for them.
soon be though that they will need, so they'll soon be in our boat as well at some point, I suppose. Um, all right, we'll talk best goal now. Rather, best goal from the group.
From the game that I picked, it'll have to be Clara Buell's goal. Um, stealing the ball off the Spanish, trying to play it out of the back. Just insane. I just loved it. It was just sheer. Here, look, we're here too. You can't keep doing tuck tuck around the D. We'll get to you. And I mean, that's what happened. Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was the best way to tell Spain, hey, listen, just put the ball forward, try to get into our box, otherwise we're gonna punish you. So Clara Buell's goal.
Okay. Unnati?
I'll agree with Radha. It was a fantastic goal.
Okay. Now, let me find
Oh,
if.
maybe I might,
Okay.
I might pick Marta Cardona's goal against Denmark. I might. It was a beautiful header though, because the way Mariona picks up the ball and then it was pretty good, for me. Like, Olga Carmona going forward, crossing the ball into the box, and Cardona is like not marked at all, and she heads it right into the corner. Yeah, it was a very good goal for me. So I think I would give it that.
Okay. All right. Trying to see if I can find one photo of hers. Uh, Scheisse. Okay, we'll come to that later. I'll try and find it. Okay, about the wild card now, and obviously something that if you think we've not mentioned so far, and that's difficult given what Unnati's been talking about so long. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've covered all of our bases, but a wild card, Unnati, something that is still left in there in the tank. What's the one part or one thing that we haven't mentioned that you think is worth mentioning?
Panella Harder carrying her entire team.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you're going to start stealing from the chat, then we'd rather have someone there.
No, I mean, to be honest, if you go to
No, no,
see,
just yeah.
to be very fair, the game against Spain, if she was trying to create opportunities, but it was basically like you needed another Panela Harder on the pitch in order to just get the ball into the goal. Because if you see, when Nadia Nadim came on, that was the point where she and Panela both ended up creating a beautiful chance. And obviously, at the end of the day, Sara Panyo saved it, and it was a very good save. But you needed someone like Nadia Nadim and Panela Harder to combine together in order for that chance to even happen. Otherwise, the entire time before Nadia Nadim was on the pitch, you basically needed someone else, or with Harder, to combine so that the chance could be converted into a goal. So I feel that is one of the more important things that you had to mention from that. Yeah, Ria is right. Great minds think alike.
Yeah. Rather, would you agree? Because I mean, we talk about Denmark, we have to talk about Pernilla Harder. And as a Chelsea fan, I mean, you would have wanted her to get through to from the group stages. But apart from that, anything else, or would you like to add to what Unnati said?
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly Denmark had a overly golden run the last time around, so they walked in 5 years later with that expectation, and maybe fans did too. But you've got to have that kind of a team and that kind of a form and that kind of momentum as well, which they didn't have too much. So I really wanted Pernilla to do well, and the entire team. I'm a fan of a lot of other players on that team as well, but it was clear that there was a bit of mismatch in terms of Pernilla's vision and nobody being there where she's envisioning the ball to go. So you could see a little bit of mismatch, which was a little bit painful to watch. Even the one goal they scored was like a scrappy thing that reached her foot and went in, and then they celebrated as if they won the World Cup, right? So that really tells you that they were very, very parched, and the goals were coming very scarcely. So surely I agree over there. I think my wild card, two things I want to mention: that Denmark's head coach looked like a Bond villain, which like I absolutely love. He got like full white
Wait,
hair and a white
I
shirt
need to
and
see
suit.
what is his name? Oh wait, I'll just check
I
Denmark women football
I can't
coach.
even remember his name, but I found him like strikingly looking like a very evil villain, which I really liked. And I'd
Oh,
mentioned that,
okay.
but does he not?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't
Um,
know. I mean, Google's given me quite a malnourished photo. Okay, yeah, okay, no, yeah, he kind of does. Yeah,
yeah, no, he is a bit
yeah,
skinny, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I think Linda
Oh yeah.
Salstrom's first minute goal versus Spain in their opening fixture would be a wild card. Again, it was like, hey Spain, don't do too much tuck tuck. We'll run in behind and take a shot at your goal, try to block that. So I enjoyed that goal, and I think a lot of other fans did as well.
Listen, I think we should from now on call Spanish football style tuck tuck instead of saying taka or anything. I think tuck tuck is exactly what we should be calling it because and that's I'm basically going to steal that from you. And the next time Spain plays, even if for the men's team, I'm going to say this is tuck tuck football. Which is exactly what it is, though. I mean, I used tuk tuk when I watched like Test match cricket, but I
Right.
think this is the best way to actually
I
say,
mean, it is test
yeah,
match
tuk tuk
cricket. You can be
football.
on the crease, but if you don't
It
make runs,
is,
then what are you
yeah,
doing, right?
yeah,
So
it is,
away
it
from
is,
that.
it is true. Oh yeah. Except right now, if talk about the Spanish men's team, it's more like disaster than any tuk tuk. It's more nerve wracking than it is. I'd prefer tuk tuk to be
Right.
fair right now to what's happening. But all right, let's move on now to Group C, and if I can try and move my not gonna happen that way, but ooh, no, too soon, too soon. Okay, so let's try and see if that works. If that works, yeah. Okay, no, that doesn't work. Okay, let's go back to the original, and yeah, okay, Portugal, Netherlands, Sweden, Switzerland. Again, a group that we've kind of predicted correctly. So we kind of knew, uh, predicted Netherlands and Sweden to go through. obviously it didn't. It came down to the last round. It wasn't smooth sailings. I think for Netherlands. I think Netherlands were the ones who could have lost. I mean, they were playing Switzerland as well. So yeah, so let's talk about the best player in the group, and then obviously we talk about the group as well as a whole. So rather, take it away. Let's talk about the group as a whole first. So, what did you make of what Ria calls group chaos? CH. Okay, I'll put it up here because I don't do justice to that. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was group chaos. I think it was a group that we expected smooth sailing for Netherlands and Sweden, which at the end was not smooth sailing. They made it out, but after match day one, all four teams had 1 point on board, which instantly opens up the entire table to a lot of potential chaos. And post that, you saw a team like Netherlands concede too much, more than they would have liked, to a team like Portugal that wasn't supposed to be at the Euros
Yeah.
initially, right? So you have this sudden level of, oh my god, anything can happen, and you come down to the last match day where you X numbered goals and you're still stuck on one, but then after the 85th minute, suddenly Netherlands scores three more. I don't know, they wake up at that
Yeah.
point or what happens there. But it was really one of those unpredictable groups. Maybe not in the best way, because teams that should have done better didn't, but also in a good way because teams that shouldn't have done so well did well. And I think that's the beauty of football. You get everything, and teams like Netherlands concede a lot of goals. Ria saying water is wet when Netherlands concede, but look, at the end of the day, they scored more than they conceded. They did the job, and now they have to just play well on one day for 90 minutes to progress. So let's see how that goes. I think this group really provided a lot of entertainment for us.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think it should have been smooth sailing for the top two teams. Like Netherlands and Sweden should have been home dry. The fact that we're talking water, that they were wet, let's not talk about that. They should have been home dry. The other two teams shouldn't really have been, close to, or given them the fight that we actually witnessed. And Unnati, what did you make of it as well?
I think to a certain degree, I would say I did expect Netherlands to start conceding a lot of goals, considering they were still so hell bent on starting Sario and Vinandal, who ended up, making it out of the tournament injured. But I think the biggest, I wouldn't say surprise, but I was fairly happy to see that Portugal did really well in the group. Given everything, with how Russia went out of the tournament, and then they had just a very short time, to get together and prepare for the tournament. I think Portugal did very well. Like, they just need a little bit of time and, a little bit of more investment, and, they can perform really well, because already they've been, this entire group, they performed so well. I think for that reason alone, you can just say that, they should be progressing ahead pretty soon enough. I think in terms of Switzerland, I feel like at least the first 85 minutes against the Netherlands was one of the best games that they played. Because, if you haven't watched that match, you wouldn't know how close the game was until that very moment. Obviously, after Leah Welty, like, got subbed out, the whole game became, like a mess completely, because the defense gave up, kind of, and, the defense, like, the pockets opened up in the defense, and then, obviously that's how Netherlands were able to capitalize. But I think Switzerland was really good, like, just like how I expected in the last game. They did do well. Sweden, I think I expected a little better performance from them in the first match against the Netherlands. But overall, I would say it was a pretty good group, because, it was tight till the end. So, because had the Swiss won that game by some miracle, and had they not, given up, I wouldn't say given up, but had they not disintegrated in the last few minutes of the game, there was a good chance that, they could have actually won, because they did have an opportunity in the beginning of the second half where they could have, taken the lead. against the Netherlands. So had that gone
Yeah.
in at that time, it would have changed the entire game, because it would have been 2-1 at that point, and it would have changed the mentality of the Dutch as well. So obviously I think there was certain instances and incidents within the group where the whole group could have been something else, you know at the end of it. But I think somehow, because the Netherlands were able to capitalize based on the number of fans, you know you can't, like, the kind of support that they had at the
Yeah.
stadium. It was like orange everywhere, like it was just incredible. So that fan support basically has
Yeah.
just helped them through, and it has allowed them to progress. But shout out also to the Switzerland fans, because the Swiss were just so incredible. Like, I had a friend who was shooting the game at the stadium, and he said that you have to give credits to the Swiss fan base. They were not silent at all. They were continuously, like, screaming, cheering for the team. So yeah, I think, yeah, overall it was a very entertaining group, rather, I would say.
All right. And best player from the group?
Mm. Rather, do you want to pick first? I might have to think.
I am
Yeah.
going to
Okay.
pick an unconventional one. I mean, I'm going to pick the Swiss goalie, Gail Talman. She's 36 years old. She's also made a bunch of tackles within the three matches, which led to penalties and then were overturned because that's how precise she was. And she made a really funny face saying, "I told you so, ref. That's not a red card." So I really enjoyed watching her play. And as Unnati mentioned, I think the number of goals put in the back of Swiss net is a bit thanks to the defense sort of disintegrating towards the end. But overall, I think she held them together and fed the ball out to the likes of Welty and
Yeah.
Backman, who were up there, doing the best they could. But I'd give a shout out to her. I think she was the best player in terms of catching people's attention.
Okay. And Unnati?
Um, I think I can go on with two. I think Ria has mentioned both of them as well. Jessica Silva actually ended up catching my eye in the game against the Netherlands. She scored. It was beautiful. And the second one is again, like Ria mentioned, Daphne van Domselaar. I think had it's kind of funny, how when you think about it, how this game works, because she is a young keeper, and had Sari Van Veenendaal not been injured and not out of the tournament, I don't even think she would have gotten a chance to show the kind of goalkeeper she is. And she's been dominating the way she's been playing, because she's made some really insane saves. And yes, the Dutch have conceded, but you cannot blame her. This is her first tournament, two caps in. I think she's been fabulous. So I think both of them, to be really honest.
Okay. Um. All right. What I'm gonna. Okay. So who would you pick? Okay. So once, do I just take two goalies as
Let's
my
go with
as the?
Daphne. I think she was splendid as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And okay, let's move on to the best game. And rather, I mean,
Ooh.
Unnati's mentioned that the 85 minutes was of between Netherlands and Sweden were the best. But what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I'd go with Netherlands, Switzerland. The final group game, more stakes on it than a general group game. Also, the fact that like it made me stay up till 2:30 a.m. with like blurry eyes, just stuck to the screen, figuring out what's gonna happen. Watching a split screen where Sweden is scoring, but Netherlands are struggling to, and Switzerland are holding them very well. I think again, Switzerland have
Yeah.
shown their bounce back ability. There's a better word for that, resilience or whatever it might
Yeah,
be,
it's
because
fine. It's
they,
fine.
they score an own goal and they go back and score one in
Yeah.
the Dutch goal. It happened before, it
Yeah.
happened again. So I think they provided a really, really good fight. And, it just something happened there. Their batteries sort of ran out within the last 10 minutes of the game, which was unfortunate. But for just a spectator to watch that game, it was a fun one. So I'd say that was the best game because of the stakes involved and the fact that we got 5 fun goals to see.
Okay. Great. And Unnati?
I'd have to go with Switzerland versus Portugal. Oh boy, that game was just insane because Switzerland scored two very early goals, okay, within the first 10 minutes or first 15 minutes, I think. And then Portugal just came out in the second half, like wanting to dominate, and they scored two amazing goals, and the match ended up being a draw. So, yeah. I cannot pick another a game in Group C that was more fun than Switzerland versus Portugal. It was amazing. Had me at the edge of
Okay.
my seat because it was just like obviously both teams were on at the same score line, and then it was just like another goal waiting to happen to see who would take the all 3 points home. But then at the end of the day, they ended up sharing points. So yeah, it left me at the edge of my seat. So definitely
Okay.
that.
Okay, great. Now what am I gonna do? Okay, I'm gonna have Ria break the tie, and because she said same during for the Portugal Swiss game, I'm probably gonna do that. Uh Rather, don't worry. The next time we end on it, I'll go with your choice. So let's
No
get best goal
problem.
now. Best goal.
I would
Rather,
say, okay,
okay,
Radha, you
Unnati.
can go ahead first.
Fair enough. Anyone.
It doesn't matter. If you have one in mind, go ahead.
Yeah.
Danielle van der Dong's goal against Portugal. Oh my god. The way she called the ball. Oh boy. Oh, that was some goal. I can rave about that goal for hours. Yeah, it was a stunning piece of beauty.
Okay. And rather.
I think mine would be Hannah Bennison scoring the winner for Sweden versus Switzerland. I think in both our goals, it's a similar case of the better team going down some goals and needing to find that winner out of somewhere. And for Netherlands, it was DVD who came through, and for Sweden, it was 19-year-old Hannah Bennison scoring from outside the box, and her first ever international goal at these kind of stakes was incredible to see. The celebrations after also, just brought me a lot of joy. So I think shout out to Hannah Bennison for getting that winner in her first international goal. That's quite insane.
Awesome. All right. I'm gonna go with Hannah Bennison. 'Cause like I said, we're going to get that done here. Okay. Let's talk about the wild card here while I find these two pitches. Rather, let's talk. What are we missing out here from this particular group? What is that we missed? Pretty sure there's something great.
I don't think we've missed this. We've definitely covered this, but I think a wild card by definition is someone who almost isn't supposed to be here, but has somehow come here and done well. So that's got to be
Yeah.
Team Portugal for me. The way, I mean, they literally have had a wild card entry, and for them to come and score like 4 goals more than like even some other teams in the entire competition could do. I think credit to them. They put every team they played really under pressure and had to have their opponents play well and play much better and up their game to get a winner. So I think Team Portugal gets the wild card entry for this group from my side.
Okay. And Unnati?
Yeah, I agree with Radha because, like I said, Portugal was a team that had, the least amount of time to prepare as compared to every other team. So I think really, and another fact is that bar two players on their team,
Yeah.
rest of the entire team just plays in Portugal. Okay, so they have
Oh.
not, yeah. So bar two players, the rest of the team pretty much plays in Portugal and in the Portuguese clubs and everything. So I definitely have to say that they've been just fantastic. Brilliant, brilliant tournament for them, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show because even in the prediction thing, I had Russia in my flowchart until someone mentioned that it was Portugal who had made it through, and I didn't realize that because weirdly enough, I think I copied that from the Euro site itself, and they had Russia. So I
Right.
was wondering, and then someone said Portugal, and as I was saying Russia, I was like, wait, that can't be right. But yeah, I mean, kudos to them for coming in
Mm-hmm.
last minute and still putting in a performance. So I'm glad to see that, and of course, hopefully, it's not the last time that we see it. And I mean, you never know. They've increased the number of teams to 16 this year. They might increase it even further, so more teams might actually find their way through to the tournament. But even if they don't, I'm pretty sure we can see Portugal sooner than later. All right, let's move on now to the last group, one that I guess in terms of point scoring, it wasn't too many, right? I don't think that. I think a lot of draws, a lot of close calls, close victories. Oh no, actually, France actually hammered quite a few few goals past some of the teams, but I think Italy was 5-1 or something, right? And again, Italy was someone that we thought would do quite decent at the tournament. Unnati, let's talk about D, and what did you make of it?
The fact that we expected better out of Italy and they were just disappointing. They were failing to score goals. They were just failing to perform, and you could see the sheer frustration on Cristiana Girelli's face and Barbara Bonancia's face, where they were constantly just so annoyed. How they wanted to move the ball ahead, and they wanted to try and score, but they were just not able to do any of that. So I think Italy was probably the most disappointing out of the group. Iceland was, yeah, I expected Iceland to do well, and they've just shown that all three of their games were a draw. They are actually one of the only teams who have not lost a single game, okay, in the group, and yet are going home and not qualifying for the quarterfinals. But yeah, I think in general you have to just say that Belgium as well. They performed excellently, in the group stages, and sure, we expected more from France, but it's basically like France against Iceland. You could see how important the game was for Iceland, and even though that Corinne Diacre just ended up saving some of the players, resting them out because it was the last game, they had already qualified. Iceland held them really well. So, and then to concede a last minute penalty, causing more drama again within the group. So, it was pretty much basically, even at the last day, on the last day, it was like France was already qualified, but we didn't know amongst the remaining three teams who was going to qualify. So I think it was
Yeah.
it was a pretty nice group, other than the fact that Italy was so disappointing, because you even the fans were frustrated at one point with how they were performing. So yeah, I think overall it was a pretty good group, especially Iceland's performance. I can't I can't not rave about them.
Yeah, fair enough. Radha?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Group D was a team that was really great, a team that was really shit, and two teams that I didn't want to go out, but I knew that one of them would go out, because I think Belgium and Iceland, they're the tiny teams, their country's population is like just
Okay.
non-existent, and they come out here, and Iceland are undefeated, and Belgium pull out an extraordinary win versus Italy that just looked like shambolic the entire tournament. So I was upset that Iceland had to go out, but I knew that they knew that they had done everything they could. They had that Viking clap after
Yeah.
every game, they had a great fan base, and they had great spirit, and that was good to see. Shame that only two could go through, because honestly, three deserve to go through from this group. So I think overall it's a very wholesome group. Italy really looked amateur. Because after the first game, the coach subbed out a decent chunk of their core group. And then if you sub out your core group, you're going to struggle versus Belgium and Iceland, who you should not be struggling against. So they didn't
Yeah.
look like they were backing their players at all, which again is a big shame to see. Hopefully, Italy can recuperate from this coming out of a disappointing major tournament. But yeah, I think that was a roundup of the group from my end.
Yeah, it came down to the wire because the last game obviously was Belgium, Italy, and then Iceland,
France
France,
and
and
Iceland.
I was a little peeved that, or not peeved, but I was a little sad that Iceland had to play France in the last game, because I felt like had they come up against either Italy or Belgium, they could have easily probably won that game and gone through. I felt maybe there wasn't chance. I would have said a bigger chance than if they had played France. And it would have been nice to see them go through. I think uh, in the men's thing, they had a similar sort of story. Where was it? I think
Yeah, versus
2012.
Germany. Okay, no,
No,
then I'm
but
thinking of someone else. That
no,
was
no,
Chile,
that's
maybe. Never mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This was in the Euros, I think to 2012 or something. But yeah, I'm forgetting the year. But yeah, it was similar. It was really nice to see them. You like you mentioned, rather. I think like the country was so like together,
Right.
and your support that they get is insane. Not only I know everyone talks about the Viking club, but just the overall support, even if they don't do well, even if they do well, it's this camaraderie is always there. They're always for each other. And yeah, I mean the country itself is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean cool in the sense not like cold, but it's pretty awesome. So yeah, let's talk about the best player from this particular group. And rather, who would you go with?
I would go with Belgian goalkeeper Nikki Evrard. I think
Oh, you're all with the goalkeepers.
I feel like strikers get enough credit on paper anyways. So if you got to mention
True.
someone, you got to mention the ones behind doing the duty at the back end. I think she saved a couple of penalties. I'm not wrong. At least one that I can recount for sure. And Belgium are one that are not super tight knit in defense, so they relied on their goalkeeper a lot to keep goals out of the back of the net, which is somewhere where she had to step in. She had to come through. I've added it to my fantasy team because that's how much I believe in her now. So I'd give her a shout out. I think it's not an easy job being a goalkeeper. So and I could never do anything like that in my life. So I recognize what kind of skill it takes to come up against the likes of France, come up against the likes of even in all of Belgium's game, they had fewer shots and fewer shots on goal. Their opponents were always having more shots on goal. So it speaks to the testament of the goalkeeper, to keep those shots on goal outside the goal.
Yeah.
It's Nikki Evrard for me.
Okay. And Unnati?
I think I want to keep up with Radha's goalkeeper thing, and I have to say Iceland's Sandra Sigurðardóttir. She was incredible. She's a tank. Okay, like she against I think France. We had some key drama about the VAR coming into play a couple of times because of the goals scored that were offside and all of that drama. But I think even otherwise, she's done really well in this tournament. So I have to give it to her, definitely.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. I'm going to give it to both of them, I suppose. Let's be kind to them, and we'll find a photo. But let's talk about the best game from the tournament, from the group stage. Um, Unnati, let's go with you this time.
France and Iceland. Oh, because there was so much drama with the VAR and the last minute penalty. The first goal that came in within the first minute from Melvin Mallard. I think overall it was a very exciting game. Like kept you at the edge of your seat because you could see all the time that Iceland wanted to capitalize and answer for that first minute goal, and they were trying their best. Jons Dottir had a very beautiful opportunity where she kind of headed it wide and stuff, but yeah, that was one game. The two, I've been awake for all games and working after till like 6:30 in the morning every single day, but I know which is not very healthy at all, but that game basically just made me lose all of my sleep. It was so good.
Okay, great. And Radha?
Yeah, it's got to be the same game. I had that in mind as well. You rarely see a game where you have the fastest goal and then probably the latest goal that is even possible.
Yeah.
And this game had that. It also had, apart from disallowed goals, a lot of balls hitting the woodwork, which again is like so close yet so far. So it was all in all an action-packed game, and both teams, it ended in a draw, which I think was the fair result in the end.
Yeah, because you know
Okay.
the thing is that when you on paper when you see Iceland and France, this is not the result that you would expect out of a team,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
on paper. But then when you watch the game, you just see for how exciting the game actually is. So definitely props to both the teams actually. And it was also props to the Icelandic fans as well. They were crazy. They were so loud throughout the entire game. I don't think they've even once like stopped cheering for the team with the drums and the Viking claps and all of that. Yeah, pretty insane atmosphere, even to just experience it from home, on TV, really.
No, I like I said, that's one of the more. I think after the Viking clap back in the men's Euro, every team started doing a Viking clap for some reason. I just felt like, I mean, it sort of was the starting point or the origin point of a lot of teams copying that particular celebration because of how everyone everyone gets chills when that happens because of like it's in when it's done in chorus, like the sound, the just the
Yeah,
atmosphere as a whole. And yeah,
goosebumps.
it is goosebump moments. And uh, yeah, it kind of is a little bit, I feel like, sometimes overdone when every team does it, and I'm like, no, it's best when the Icelandic or the Scandinavian countries do it because of the significant historical significance and relevance. If like someone else does it, say for example like a UAE does it, I mean, why are we clapping like that? It just doesn't make sense. I know it's cool and all, but like, let's not. um okay, let's go to the best goal now. So Radha, which one would you pick?
Oh my God, best goal. I'm gonna have to think over this. Okay, but okay, I've got one in mind, and it's got to
Okay.
be Tina Ricani's winner versus Italy. I think she's also the one to score the most goals in qualifying, and the goal that she scored versus Italy. Again, as I mentioned, Belgium always had fewer shots and fewer shots on goal. So for them to convert the couple of shots they had on goal, I remember there was a pinball in the box, and she took a left-footed shot into the side netting, which is a clutch moment from a clutch player who's been carrying them through qualifying by the stats. So yeah, it's got to be her.
Okay. And Unnati?
I think I'll have to go with Caroline Leah Wilmsdottir's goal against Italy. It was the
Okay.
first goal that they scored, and they were leading all game, and obviously Italy ended up equalizing after that. But I think that was the one goal that it was just amazing, like really well taken by the young player. She plays for Bayern, but she's still a very young player. Can has a lot of potential to develop, but she's just consistently performed really well throughout the tournament. So yeah, definitely her goal.
All right. Okay. Again, I'll take both into consideration here, just because it's the uh, last sort of group that we have here. And let's talk about the wild card before we get to talking a little bit about the semifinals and what to expect, because today will be the first quarterfinals, sorry, not semifinals, but the first quarterfinals between England and Spain. So rather the wild card for group, something that we didn't expect, or positive, negative, anything.
A couple of them. One would be Italy's shambolic performance, but the wild card would be that in the 39-degree heat wave, Bertolini still had a really magnificent Italian suit on in the sidelines throughout the entire game. So, I mean, insane stamina, endurance, willpower, whatever you call it. The team should have shown it, but
Yeah.
she showed that on the sidelines. So that was one. And Icelandic youngster, Jonsdottir, I mean, her throws were insane. She could throw across the Atlantic or something. So I had never really seen, I hadn't followed her much. She plays for Wolfsburg, so I'm going to keep my eye on her in the upcoming season. But yeah, her throws always landed in the 18-yard box and always caused trouble for the people who were defending. So yeah, just a shout out there as well.
Awesome, great. So let's now kind of talk about the quarterfinals, right? So we've got. Let me try and do that. Just before that, let me I just want to fill this up. Who did we talk about as who's the goal? Oh, okay, yeah, here we go. All right, just give me 1 minute. Sorry about that. It's gonna be random. Yeah, okay, so is that even an Irish? I guess so. Okay, let's take that, and there we go. All right, so let me fine. As you can see here. All right. Yeah. Great. So as you can see, this is what we've landed up with for the group stage of the Women's Euro 2022 tournament. I mean, obviously, if you disagree with something or if you have differing views, you can let us know once YouTube comment section or on Twitter or on Instagram. I'll be posting this up there, so you can obviously let us know your thoughts. But let's move on to the quarterfinals, and this is what we had predicted. Obviously, there are going to be changes, but let's talk about like in the quarterfinals. Are we expecting upsets? Are we expecting things to be a little more simpler now that we've kind of got our teams that we mostly expected? Some of them are already upsets, but mostly expected over there. Are we going to expect this just the usual or more upsets coming our way in the quarterfinals? Radha?
Mm, it's so tough to say because the fact that four of these teams have been decently dominant in the group stage and are peaking in momentum feels like they're gonna upturn sort of or overrun the team that's scrappily made their way there. But then the entire definition of an upset is that, hey, look, 90 minutes, I was better than you, and you're going home. So
Yeah.
I'd love to see an upset. I'm not particularly invested in any team here, so I would love to see an upset. But at the same time, I would love to see Wembley packed with English fans, and England trying to fight for a trophy in the final. So I'd like to say that England and Germany and France and Sweden are going to go through. That's what I would put my money on. But there's always room for upset. There always has been, and there surely would be at least one, I would think.
I came into this particular podcast episode thinking that most of our predictions were wrong, but just looking at the quarterfinal list, except for Norway, I think we've got pretty much everything spot on as of now, because we've got
Norway and
Spain and
Italy both.
England.
Norway and Italy.
All right,
Yeah.
Norway and Italy. Okay, yeah, those are the two.
Yeah.
Over the past week or so, I was like, our predictions are totally wrong. And I look at it right now, I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. We've got two teams where one we really expected to do well and who hasn't, Norway, and Italy, fine, who we said was a dark horse. And I mean, I guess it's fair. That could have gone either way, but I suppose the biggest one was the Norway miss. But Unnati, going into the quarterfinals, and as you see it over here, what do you make of it? I mean, goals galore? Are we going to see teams sit back and try and defend? Because this is a knockout game. They don't have a second chance. It's not like they're going to have a round two. They're not going to have even a second leg to play. It's 90 minutes, 120 minutes penalties. So our team's going to go into this much more cautious. Like in England, now that they've destroyed Group A, they're now coming to this. They're going to play Spain. Continue on this domination, or do they sit back and kind of say, okay, it's cautious time now. Let's try and not concede, and then let's try and in that uh, in a period where we can or we have momentum or we can get past Spain, we'll try and score and get our goals. And I'm not only saying this for England, but for any other team over there, Sweden, Netherlands, France. Cautious is the approach right now, or just play however you've been playing in the group stage?
I think it depends on how, like, if you look at it, it depends on how each of these teams have performed in the group stages. Like, if you see for a team like, say, England and, say probably France, they would just want to continue the way they have been playing so far. But then when you see a team like the Netherlands, and you see, oh sorry, even the fact that Germany, they would want to go ahead with, the way they've played so far, because they've played really well, throughout the entire group stages. But if you see the other teams, like, say, even Sweden, for the fact that they've played well, but there's obviously room for more improvement, and they actually have a couple of COVID cases around as well right now. So even though
Yeah.
there's a lot of squad depth, there needs to be certain rotation that they might have to do. And so that there has to be a certain way of thinking that goes around this, because um England versus Spain, like, let's just talking about tonight's game. I feel like England might just go on the way that they usually do, but they also have to be cautious at the same time, because they know that Spain loves to keep the ball. Okay, and in the past few games, like we've seen in the group stages, England also likes to keep the ball, and they know that if you're going to be playing against a team like Spain, you're not going to have the ball plenty of times. So whatever times that you do have the ball, you have to be clinical enough to make sure that you create a chance and you put it at the back of the net. So that's how important it has to be for them. So it's more like how each of these teams have been performing in the previous games, and how the opponents kind of up manipulating the game.
Yeah.
You go about that way, I would say.
But okay, but rather the other one way of looking at it is obviously that you go on playing your own game, but you're also up against teams that have made it through the group stages, teams who are of better quality and who might hurt you. Now, say for example, the England game, because they've beaten Norway comprehensively 8-0, right? You take a huge confidence boost because of a result like that against a team like that as well. So do you go
Mhm.
against Spain saying, if I've beaten Norway 8-0, Spain are nothing, I beat them as well? Or does that, is there a sense of overconfidence that could creep in and then you start playing a little cautious, a little more? Yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Like, does could it work against them that having dominated the groups, England, Sweden, Germany's also sort of dominated, having in France, having dominated the group, that they might be a little overconfident, so there are chances of upset? Or do they, like, the moment you get into a knockout stages, even if you've done well in the group stage, your mentality could immediately change. Your coach could say, okay, now you're now in the big leagues, you're now facing huge teams. Let's kind of be calm in our approach. Let's not go and try and score as many, because in that case, if we get screwed or we concede even 1 or 2 goals, we could be out of here.
Firstly, all this knockout talk is really like making me tremble, because I'm going to have to stay up past 2:30 a.m. if it goes into extra time, which I don't think I'm even capable of. But that's a worry for later. But addressing your question, Brady, I think we are at the stage in the world where every team that's on the chart right now is capable of winning in their own right. They
Yeah.
obviously by default are looking at the opponent, are looking at their strengths and how to neutralize them, but they are so focused on what they're up to, and if they just execute everything, they have talented people, they have smart coaches, they have technology that can help them in any way. A team is very self-sufficient in today's age. So I think as much as you're saying that we need to be cautious, they don't know how to play cautious. They know how to play confident, and that's what they're going to do. I don't think any team is stupid enough to become complacent. I hope not. That would be very silly if we see England come out and like put 7 people forward and like leave the back open. I think when England has scored all the 8 goals, they've done it simply with their attackers. The defense has been solid. If and when Norway ever attacked, the defense would have been there. Now they didn't attack, so we feel like, oh look, what's up there. So I think every team has the strategy in place to win in their own right, and the cautious attitude or the defensive nature only comes in at desperate situations. But heading into kickoff, you would back yourself to do exactly you'd back yourself to do exactly what you've been training for the entire time, and not change your strategy based on what the opponent can offer, but obviously maneuver your strategy to neutralize them.
All right, fair enough. I guess, yeah, we time will tell, and I guess we've got uh 4 days. I think, is it one every day now?
Yeah, it is
For
Yeah.
one
yeah,
every day.
yeah. Okay, so and we'll see in a few days' time. By the weekend, we'll know whether predictions still hold true with what we've said. Yeah, obviously some won't, but I think from the semifinals, we still got teams who are still there in the tournament. No, oh no, Norway isn't. So we'll come to see, and obviously we'll do a review of that once we get past the quarterfinal stage. But it's going to be interesting either which way, whether we see upsets, whether we see goals galore, teams sitting back. I just feel like sometimes the mentality does shift because it's a knockout. I know you've said that people will continue playing their style of football and all of that, but it's just that you once it se- once it comes into your mind that, oh shit, like it's a do or die situation. It's only one day, and if it's my bad day, I'm out of this tournament. Like it can just take 1 minute for all you know, 1 second. So all that can play into your minds. I've seen it a lot in football, whether it be men's, women's football, all of that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out. But whatever said and done, it's just going to be fun to watch. Hopefully we can stay. And in terms of like staying up, yeah, it is. I know for you guys, it is quite late. I mean, I'm 1.5 hours behind you, so I'm still okay. But yeah, once if it gets to penalties, yeah, it can get a little. Yeah, I've always found like my method of watching, like when I watch Champions League matches, which are obviously due at 10:45, 11 o'clock, it's like I get a quick nap in at around 9. So 9 to 11, just like quick 2 hour this thing. I put the alarm on and I'm up at 11. I'm like, okay, at least I've got 2 hours secured in my sleep bank, and I can then do 11 to 1:32, and then I'm like, okay, even if I sleep 2 to 6, I've got 4 plus 2, and I've got 6 hours of sleep. I'm like, okay, done. Yeah, I just force myself to sleep at 9, even if I know I can't sleep at 9. I'm like, switch off the lights, switch off everything, just put the alarm and just close your eyes and sleep. But that 2 hours of sleep, yeah, but that can, like, if it you said you're a neutral watching this right now, so that works best then, because if I'm watching my team play, that 2 hours of sleep is not great because I am
It's not
fretting.
sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not sleep. It's like, oh shit, what if this happens? Oh no, what if this happens?
It's overthinking in the
And
dark. That's all it is.
it is. And the worst part is I've had instances where I've overslept as well. So you don't want to get into that mood where you're like, oh, this is a nice sleep, I don't want to get up for the game. It's like, leave it, I'm just having really good sleep. I've done that. I've had my alarm ring so loud that I've had people coming from other rooms to wake me up when I haven't gotten up myself.
Oh.
So I'm like, so there is a downside to it, but the upside is I'm well rested at least before that. I don't feel the next morning that bad. So something to keep an eye out for. But yeah, keep the alarm really loud and really next to your ear, and that works. But all right, I guess that's all the time we have for this group stage roundups. Thank you, Unnati and Radha, for coming on here and giving your thoughts on the group stage. It was fun having your opinions on the various categories that we had. And yeah, can't wait to host you soon. Or hopefully, once finals end over the weekend, we could do something like that as well.
Oh, I
Or
have a
the
really cool
semifinals.
fun fact that I read
Yeah.
about today's quarterfinal that I thought I'll just share with you guys if you don't know already. But
Yeah.
in 2017, Lucy Bronze signed for Lyon and then knocked France out of the quarterfinal and then had to meet a lot of French players in preseason. And now she's signed for Barcelona
Oh, she's done
and is playing Spain tonight. If she knocks them out, she's going to meet a lot of them in preseason in a few weeks. So I found that very interesting. So by trend, England should win tonight by the Lucy Bronze logic. But that's something that just by chance is happening. So I thought I'll share it with you guys.
Fair. Oh, that's quite nice. I wonder though how
Wait,
tense
so
the
that does
atmosphere is.
also wait 1 second. That also means that Leon ended up winning the Champions League. So that also means if Spain does go out, we have a consolation prize with the Champions League. So
You got 3
So,
years of a
yeah.
if that's supposed to be true. Yeah, so you're all set. Don't worry about that. It's one or
No,
the other.
yeah, but I'm just thinking that if for Lucy Bronze, fair enough. If she gets past, it's going to be great when she goes to Barcelona, meets all these players, and have the higher ground, so to speak. But if she does lose, imagine going into that training ground, right? And people are like, ha ha ha, and you're the only one there. At least it's the
Right.
other way around.
They have each other.
like you've got the losers have, you have other people who have lost with you.
Oh, you do
Here
have
you're
other
just going
people.
in.
You have Anna Maria Tsarnagocevic there. You do have Ingrid Engen there. You have Caroline
got
Graham Hansen there. So
PGH, yeah.
Lucy Bronze would not be alone technically.
No,
if
no, but I'm saying
Spain
you
does
lost
win.
to Spain in the knockouts, whatever. But I'm just saying, at
Yeah.
home as well.
Okay.
Like you
Yeah, I
lost
can
in
give you
England,
that.
so all of that. I'm just picturing the atmosphere. Like when you open the
Yeah.
dressing room door, and then
They're all
that
staring at
moment
you,
of
yeah.
awkward silence. Yeah, the initial moment of awkward silence. But I'm sure they'll all be okay with it. But just that initial look, who it is. But that,
Barca,
well, that'll
Barca
be.
players are pretty chill like that, so I don't think that's gonna
I
really
guess
happen. They
when
would
you're
be.
dominating when you dominate the league as Barca have done, it stays like you're not going to start feeling too tense about stuff and all that.
Right.
Start creating. But yeah, it's just something that glad you mentioned that, because I'm thinking about it. Just it's quite interesting to see to
Yeah.
imagine such a scenario. But all right, so thank you, Radha and Unil, for this. Pleasure having you on here, and thank you for everyone who's been listening to this and watching all of this live and not live as well. If you're watching this later on, do let us know your thoughts in the YouTube comment section, on Twitter, on Instagram, and follow us on all of our social media accounts. We'll definitely be back post the quarterfinal group stage with more roundups. I guess that's about it for this episode. Episode 1 of the Women's Euro 2022 tournament. I'm your host, Praddy, once again. You stay safe and see you.